Hey folks, I think we're live. Tony Hobbs joining me today. Hi Hobbs.
Hello. Hello.
Hobbs is one of our model artists and he's also been working with the UI beautifully. This week's dev blog probably isn't going to be a massive one because I don't think we've done too much. Hey Joseph, how you doing? Hello Khan, hello Admiral Alexander, and hello Overseer / Oscar Bernard and Centurion. Oh, there you are, over on Twitch. So, this last week, a couple of different things have happened. I'm just going to turn my music down a smidge, because I can't hear myself think, which of course is an oxymoron.
Yep.
But I think this week, primarily, what's happened is a little bit more work has gone into the pre-game, I suppose, or post-game UIs. And on top of that, we've introduced the plasma system for the Romulans, which is quite nice. So now what happens is, as you progress through the game, you progress from nuclear rockets, which you start with, through to a plasma torpedo, you'd call it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Energy ball of death.
Ball of doom. Joe for Players watching on YouTube and Twitch. I like that. I tend to find that Twitch is faster. So you'll be able to talk to me better on Twitch. However, YouTube is probably a little bit better from a consistency basis. I don't know what's best. Right, so I think the first thing that we should probably do is have a look at the Romulan system, if you like, for researching. So let's move ourselves over to playing as the Romulans. Now they're very, very not fleshed out at this point, so don't get too excited about it all. Let's play as that, and I suppose we should be that kind of colour. Just for consistency. And let's go to start game. I'm going to be doing a little bit of cheating here, so it doesn't take us ages to get to the missile unlock. Sorry, excuse me, the torpedo unlock. I'm sorry, Centurion. Centurion says, "You foul villain, how am I supposed to get work done with this stream going on?" Put it on your second screen and pretend you're doing work. That's what I always do. Woot Romulans. Lorandel says, "I can't wait for this mod. We can't wait for it to be finished. It might be a little while though." Hey Stargate, how you doing, my man? Sip of coffee. And what have you been up to this week, primarily, Hobbs?
Well, I have been looking at basically redesigning these load screens that you're looking at right now. So when I initially started working on them, I kind of, got a little bit burnt out with ideas, but now I've got a few fresh ideas, so I'm hoping I can finish them off and make them look a bit nicer.
Well, I imagine one of the primary things that you're looking to do is change this load bar a smidge.
Yeah, get that off of being a stock one. I'm not 100% sure of the race logos in the bottom left there. I kind of want to move them about, and I'd also like to move the tips and the logo to be a bit more inside the blue box, because the blue box actually is the lowest resolution the UI will scale to. So I'd like everything to sit within that box, and then anyone with a larger resolution, it will scale outwards.
I see. So what we might want to do is we might want to potentially create a fade down to black at the bottom to give you a little bit, or at the sides or something, to give you a little bit more room to work with so things pop better.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's going to be something that changes the visuals. As you can see, Romulans not in any way complete. I don't think we've got any of their stations in yet.
I don't think we've even modelled all their stations yet, so there's quite a bit of work to do with the Romulans.
Well, I think the vast majority of their ships are in.
Yeah.
I think it might be nice if we spawned a few of them. You can see that I've put the UI in for the Romulans now. So should we spawn a few of their ships in for people to look at? We've seen the Titan before, but we'll spawn it.
We shall restore the unity to its true purpose.
As you can hear, we haven't done the Romulan voices yet. There's the Romulan Titan, the Romulan bird of prey. Really nice. Skybox feel for seeing what's underneath it. Let's see if we can change that. They're going to let us. Not massively.
Share in my
Can you do it through the dev console? Can you do it through that, or is it?
You can do, but sometimes it goes a little bit
Bulky.
It goes sausagey.
Sausagey.
You can see that now a little bit. Now I've turned it. Got the beautiful bird underneath. Let's take a look and see what else we've got. Should we take a look at the Romulan capital ships?
Sounds good to me.
Ready and able.
Vengeance is a cruel mistress.
Is indeed a cruel mistress. So we've kind of got quite a lot of different. They are advent stations. We've got quite a lot of variety when it comes to the cap ships, ranging from older to newer. I think this one here, the Karakara, that we've got.
That would be probably the oldest of capital ships the Romulans will still be fielding.
I really like it. Is this one the colony variant?
I believe so, yes, yeah. Which
this...
originally would have started out as a battleship, but then has been retrofitted as it's got older and can't keep up with the rest of the fleet.
Now this does go in line with some of the cruisers that we'll be looking at later on. So it appears, based on the design stream that we've gone, is the older Romulan ships. They're very tubular in general, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then they come to the kind of the bird of prey and the winged design later on, although they do have a slight winged motif, even in their older vessels. Let's just take a look and see what else we've got here. Well, that guy's in shadow. We have, there we go, the courier class here, which is quite a nice one. He's very, very flat. I think this one is a carrier of some form, isn't it? Because of the
so this is the carrier variant of the Gallant Wing, which people might be more familiar with. So it's essentially the same main hull configuration, but then with some larger hangar bay sections and stuff bolted on. So they've retrofitted the hull for carrier operations.
So you can see that we've got several segments that open up here at the top and at the bottom, which theoretically allow fighters out, although the fighters are probably going to be missized. That's just a limitation of sins.
Yeah, can't have it all.
Yeah, fighters are going to appear bigger than those boxes, but that's okay. You know what? We're not going to complain too hard about it. Moving on, we've got this.
We sensed your presence.
Wonderful thing here. Is it called the Swiftwing, this one?
This is the Swifting, yeah.
Although it's currently mislabeled. Currently called the Rapture class battlecruiser on here, which I think is an Advent one.
Yeah, that might still be stock.
I'll get round to that. This is a nice ship. I think this is supposed to be kind of a support ship.
I think so. I'm quite rusty on what we decided to allocate each ship to, but I believe it is, yeah.
But this is one that a lot of people will likely recognise. Do you all recognise it, guys? Tier 4. What's everybody talking about? I think people are talking about Stowe in the chat. Moving on, we've got the Battle Hawk.
You may speak.
Which is a beautiful one. This is a straight up battleship. This one's here to kill. Big impulse engines. Be cool if we could give a ramming ability. It's a shame that Sins doesn't really allow for that.
Yeah.
As I always think there are certain ships that would be well suited to ramming, and this, to me, it looks like one of them. It'd be like a knife through hot butter, wouldn't it? Or hot knife through butter.
Hot butter through knife.
Hot butter through a knife. Just gotta watch out for that extremely hot butter. And then, last but not least, we have the Gallant Wing standard variant, which again is a support capital ship. So we're quite happy with the capital ship lineup that we've got. We might end up with more in there because I think we do have one less with the Rommies than we do with any other race.
I think so, yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we found that we ended up with another one. In fact, I can check that. Got one or two less. But at present, we're quite happy with the work that we have done on there.
And that's right, Centurion. A lot of these did feature in Star Trek Legacy, but they've been what we've done is remodeled them all, so they're actually the quality is actually higher than was in Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot of them have been touched up in different ways as well, I think, to suit what we're calling the loaf timeline.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gone with the idea of our own timeline as to like the sequence of events that we expected to happen during the time period, and that's kind of why the ships are appearing consistent. They're not always lore accurate, 100%, if you will. For example, I mean, I suppose if we go to the Titan, this is a good one. There is a very slight green tinge to the bird of prey. And also, a lot of people do argue about the colour of the ram scoops, don't they?
Yeah, no, this is it's just one of those things where it's you have to decide whether you're going to be 100% accurate to what was on screen, or if you're going to try and create some kind of consistency throughout. And we thought it was a bit more important to have that continuity between the whole fleet and then just make it kind of fit together.
Well, it suits better, doesn't it? It seems really jarring to get massive changes in design philosophy and design lineage. So maintaining that orange motif when it comes to the buzzards or buzzards or whatever you want to call them is actually helpful in this situation, and also maintaining a consistent color scheme when it comes to things like warp nacelle lighting is also really nice. At least I think it's really nice. I don't know what you guys reckon. Let's move the capital ships, etc. off.
Change heading.
And we'll spawn a few cruisers in as well. Right. Frigate. Oh, press the wrong button. Frigate Romulan. We've already seen the scout, so I'm not... Let's go...
Bring up local star charts.
Our word shall be spread.
At last,
Okay,
revenge shall be ours.
right, I think most of these we've got done at this point. Looks like there's some stuff back here which aren't.
All
These.
sections stand by.
Oh no, that's one of ours.
We shall overcome.
These ones could all... We haven't done those
What
yet.
lies before us?
Oh, I've made refinery drones, that's why.
Ah, I see.
Scuttle those. We don't want those. And then we've got an assembly drone there.
Armed and ready.
Okay, so again, this is another ship that's reflective of the old design lineage. So it's got that kind of tubular motif. Are these from SFC?
These ones are from Starfleet Museum.
Hey Cryptic, how you doing? Hey Starfish, how you doing? No face cam this evening, my friend. I'm afraid to say. I will start doing face cam again in the nearish future. Just it's not something I've really wanted to do lately. A bit of a crisis of image, so I've not done that recently. So we've got that one back there, which is the... Oh god, I've lost it. There it is. The Vulture, which is quite nice. And then moving backwards a smidge, we've got another one that's part of the old design lineage,
Bring up local star charts.
which is the Horus. It's being
Alter
classed
course.
as. Is it called the Horus? Is that right?
Yeah, so we came up with new names for these because the Starfleet Museum names they're essentially human code words for the ships, because they wouldn't have known what their actual class name was. So they're called things like cabbages and I'm trying to think what the other ones were. Cataracts and chowders and clavicles and things
Yes,
like
they
that.
did
And
have
it's
weird
just a
names.
bit.
Glowing Bear asks, what is this? Mods? Yes, it is a mod. This is an in-development total conversion for Sons of a Solar Empire Rebellion set kind of between the Enterprise era and just kind of getting into the TOS era in Star Trek. That's the original series era, by the way, for anybody who isn't aware. Sorry, Cryptic. Love you, man. Okay, so the design lineage, hopefully it kind of makes sense-ish to people that we've gone for.
We're prepared for anything.
I'd say this little fella, the Vieiro? The Patrick Vieira, is...
Close enough.
Yep, I think so. That's almost kind of somewhere between this and the newer models. I don't know what you'd think, because it's still got very much a rounded motif to it, in spite of the fact that it's more of a traditional Romulan design.
Yeah, definitely. And you're starting to get those traditional nacelles on the ends as well.
And of course the tail fins that become very, very prominent later on. And then kind of as you advance in design, you get kind of more flat disc shapes and less rounded overall.
Make it happen.
As you see with this fellow here. Which is the kind of the non-advanced bird of prey.
Yeah, so this is my take on the kind of Enterprise era bird of prey that's not, you know, that fits in with the same design style as all the rest.
And again, this fits in the in-betweeny side. The what's currently called the capsize fits in that in-betweeny stage.
Yeah.
And you also have the Star Glider, which I think is a familiar one for a lot of people.
Yeah, so this one is a FASA design, but we altered the length of the wings because they're quite extreme in the...
Yeah, I think the angle of them's been lessened slightly as well, hasn't it?
Yeah. So the Scout's actually a variation of this hull as well.
You know, Cryptic, people can love platonically. It's a thing. Yeah, I really like this design. I think this Star Glider is, from an aesthetic point of view, far superior to the way it was in FASA. And
yeah.
What else do we have?
Standing
Got
by.
the Sky Hawk.
Alter course.
Bring that one forward a smidge. Again, this is highly reflective of some of the other designs. I think this one's set to be a bombardment cruiser, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Hence the big torpedo shenanigans going on at the front. And then I think we've already got the one more to show, which is the Hunter. And this, it looks to me like this is kind of a direct family member of the capital ship over here, of the Swiftwing. The Swiftwing and the Hunter, they've got very, very close similarities in their design lineage, haven't they?
Yeah, there are another two very close ones. And these again are FASA designs, but were incorporated into Legacy.
Kanajo wants that ship sexually. I'm not sure which one he's talking about, but he wants it. You think the supports on this one are too straight? I disagree. I think it's just right. Or do you mean this one? Again, as I say, it fits in with the design lineage. So those are the ships that we've got so far for the Romulans. Right now, if we send these folks out to another star system,
Follow my lead.
let's get them all moving together. They, presumably, are going to use nuclear missiles at this point.
Entering coordinates.
Centurion says, I foresee many Wolfpack tactics in use with the Romulans. I think you're probably right. I think the Romulans are going to be quite raidy. We've kind of set that up in our lore, haven't we?
Has arrived.
Yeah, so you're going to have, I mean, at the point that this mod is set, the Romulans have just, or have recently lost quite a large conflict with the Federation, so, with the newly formed Federation, so they're going to be a lot more, I guess, a lot more skeptical and a lot more tactical and a lot less conventional with their tactics. They're going to probably try and be a bit more sneaky and try and see what they can pick off rather than going all guns blazing like the Klingons would.
So this is a Gint, by the way. This is a Ferengi design that was. And as you saw there, they're currently using nuclear missiles on their enemies. Oh, there are a couple there. A lot of them miss on their first pass, but they do come back. They have got targeting. I quite like the fact that they miss a lot of the time.
Just tell me where to go. Locked on target.
Yeah, it definitely shows the limitations of that kind of conventional warhead.
Beautiful stuff. Named after the first Nagus, indeed. So, that's how the Romulans start out, with nuclear weaponry. Now, there are a couple of little tricks I've got to do here in order to ensure that I can get the research on the go. Let's hope that Max has put it in correctly. I think he has. So, what we need to do is we need to create a couple of overrides here. I'm going to go with all entities detected so we can have a look around the map. I'm also going to go with instant build times, which I think is going to be helpful. And then I'm going to give myself a load of money. So if we got a D for change player...
You filthy cheater.
I know, right? We can hold G down to give ourselves a load of resources, and hold H down to give ourselves a load of credits. And then all I'll need to do is build a few logistic structures. Oh, I need slot restrictions off as well. 2 overrides, slot restrictions. There we go. So we're going to need several of what are currently called Temples of Hostility. It's wrong. Change that. Class D Moon. Need a larger build area.
Construction finished. Construction finished. Construction
I think we need
finished.
something like 4 labs for it. We need 4 labs, and then we can get plasma torpedoes for our ships, which is always going to be nice. So let's plop the research. What I might do is I might turn instant build times off so I don't confuse myself. Do that. You can see that it'll take a little while to do, and this is effectively achieved via a faction change. There are certain, in fact, I'll show you. While that's researching, I'll show you how it works. So if we go to R for Rom, find some Romulan stuff down here somewhere. Underneath all the research subreddits. Let's go with Romulan Cap Attack. Why not? Hopefully you can see this on my screen, folks. Most weapons are made like so. See that if I... And one thing that you can do with each weapon type is you can restrict it based on the faction. See if we can find which one it is. Here it is. So this particular weapon here is a missile weapon type. So this is actually our plasma torpedo. Down here, you can have a research prerequisite in order for that weapon to be unlocked. And you can have a required faction name ID. So by changing the faction, we are unlocking this weapon for usage by our guys within each entity's file. We did this for the Federation as well, in order to give them the Andorian phases.
Knowledge acquired.
We have acquired the knowledge. Now let's send our erstwhile fleet here.
Desire.
Ooh, that's a horrible noise. I'm going to send this fleet off in order for them to see if they want to use their plasma. What have we got over here? We've got Yakemba up. Ah, we've got some Nausicans in this gravity well, which is an asteroid field, a beautiful asteroid field.
Follow my lead.
Nausicaan scum. I'm not sure that you like anybody, do you, Centurion?
Our fleet has arrived.
Obliteration!
Oh god! Oh, there are some awful sound effects in this game, Hobbs. And here are the plasma torps going in. Absolutely beautiful stuff. Wow, that didn't take long.
Prepared for anything.
Hopefully I'll be able to, if I just get out of this menu, I'll be able to press, yep, the pause button. And we'll catch one of those plasma torps in flight. So this is what the plasma torpedoes look like for us. We've gone off the TOS design. Hey, Glass, how you doing, my man? A technicist, I didn't say hello earlier. Hi. So we've very much gone off the TOS imagery, if you like, for these plasma torps, and we think they work quite nicely. We took a little bit of artistic license because it's got more of a trailing edge, I think, than the TOS ones. But we certainly think it works really, really well. And oh my, that Nausicaan is having a bad day. She goes. And here's the last one. And it's over. Incidentally, we do also have various other races. As I'm sure many of you have watched before, we've got we have the Suliban in, which I always think should have a T in front of the name. More of the same. Kemba. Got some Klingons on the go here. Have we? Oh god, lag. That effect's always fun. Yep, got some Klingons over here, doing their thing, plying their trade. There's a defense turret. I don't think you guys have seen that before, have you? Have you seen that before, Hobbs? Which one of us made that? I've somehow muted myself, Hobbs, and I apologise profusely.
Ah, I see.
I don't know what I did, but I did terrible things, so I apologise, Hobbs.
I thought it was my end. I was panicking.
No, it's not you. It was me. I wanted to ask, who made the KDF defense turret?
I believe that's another one of Nef's. I think Nef did most of the Klingon structures.
I like it.
Yes, I think it's the turrets of the barrels from the bottom of the
Burrell?
or it's one of the, it might be either the bird of prey or the D4 perhaps.
If there is a pulsar in this system, yes, you can have a beauty shot of the pulsar. There you go. I can just turn this off and go Shift Z. There's your pulsar.
D5 it was. On the side of the D5 has two large turrets, and he took the barrels off those, so it's really cool.
Oh, it's the D5, not the Brel. No, he didn't mute himself. I muted myself. My bad. I think there's a certain button. I think it's mouse 3. If I click that, it mutes me and deafens me. It's so if I'm in game and in a stream and people are getting too wild, I can settle them down. What's going on over here? Oh, this is the pirate base. We haven't done anything with that, so we can't look there.
Don't look at this.
Although we do have a couple of pirate vessels. It's not Max this evening. It is Hobbs this evening. Draconian. Max, I'm afraid, is busy this evening. He can't. Can he be a part of the stream? And there we go. So overall, wow. The Clinkies are getting aggressive. Hang on, is that my homeworld? No. Yeah, the Klingons are acting really aggressively as an AI. Well, that works.
Done.
Nailed it. Auto saves. Oh. Or Suleiman indeed. Suleiman are not about to have a bad day. Excuse me, a good day. I think they are about to have a bad day. Still may need to do a little bit of tweaking with regards to speeds, Hobbs.
Yeah, I think a few of them. It's just the balance between in combat and out of combat. They go.
It's less so the playable races and more the non-playable races that I'm concerned about. I think we need to slow the non-playable races down in comparison to the playable races, because what happens then is, as long as they're several orders of magnitude slower, we never get this outside the gravity well fighting that you're seeing here.
Yeah.
What tends to happen is two items of the same speed, one chases the other one, and because they're the same speed, neither party reaches the oh look, I can turn around segment when it comes to fighter movement.
Ah, I see.
So you'll get endless chases throughout the star system unless we slow these militia down a smidge. So I'll do that at some point, not a problem. Put that on the list of things to do.
Yeah. Alright, I'm just going to grab myself a drink. I'll be 2 seconds.
Do you think, my man? Oh yeah, look at them turning around to come back in for another pass. Beautiful. Nice bit of piloting by both ships there. Right, I need to stop staring at this. So let's pause this. My apologies, guys. I get way too into just watching the battles and things. Stop talking, just shut down, don't do anything. So that's the primary thing that happened last week, is the inclusion of Romulan plasma. We did have to take a couple of days to work out an issue with the mod. There was a crash caused by the inclusion of Romulan plasma. So we tried a few things and we managed to isolate what it was and fix it, but it did take us a couple of days. So we got a little bit less work done than we wanted to, and of course we've all had real life commitments to have a think about as well. So not any massive changes. When Hobbs gets back, I think we'll probably have a quick look at his screen, see what's going on. Oh, K2, look at this. Very nice. Looks like my homeworld's going to be for it quite soon.
Right, and I'm back.
Hello, back.
Ha 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 ha.
Oh my, there's a D6 come to challenge my fleet. Do you know what? I'm going to have to watch this.
Fire when ready.
What do you desire? Death to the heathens!
I was just saying I was going to stop watching these battles, but I can't help myself.
Yeah, I keep doing that.
Classic Klingon versus Romulan engagement going on.
But they're normally so friendly.
You can see that the D6 sits in place and fires at the moment. We don't know if it's going to be like that indefinitely, but for now that's the plan. maybe, folks, we should bring the big guns in. The homeworld.
Standing by. Steady as she goes.
Bend our people. Yeah.
Altering course.
Here. Yep, they are.
Altering course.
Oh yes, the enemies are on the way. Let's create a line of defense here.
I think the main force is bypassing you.
Yeah, it looks it. That's actually fascinating that they've engaged in that kind of tactic. They've pulled my force into them, which I think they're going to win that anyway because of the D6. Incredibly powerful ship. And their main force of what looks to be smaller ships primarily and kind of planetary bombers, etc. That is bypassing this battle and going for the next star system along. Fascinating that they're actually engaging in proper tactics like that.
Make it happen. Set a course. Alter course.
Well, we've got our cap ships now, so
Fire. Full bursts.
hopefully our enemies are going to have a real bad day. Oh.
Oh, that ship is going to have a very bad day. That Gallant Wing is going for it. He doesn't care about anything.
Not phased, is he? See that the Klingons have been lured into a trap and now they're being duly dealt with. Magnificent stuff. We do have quite a few faster designs in this, or faster-esque designs.
Well, I think he's going to have to try harder to run from this.
They're really not running though. The enemy fleet is really not running.
Our reinforcements have arrived.
Ah, but their reinforcements have decided to reverse. They did have a lot of reinforcements coming in. But they've thought better of it. The Klingons have decided that they're instead going to leave. Ah, magnificent stuff. Now you can see that the battles actually, even with less ships, which we have overall, the battles do seem to last a good amount of time because of the way that we've set up both the health and the damage. Right, now I must pause. Stop watching that battle. Otherwise it's going to last... I'm just going to be watching it for the entire thing. Hobbs, I wanted to take a look and see what you were up to. You wouldn't... If you'd be interested in showing us.
Yeah, let me just share my screen.
So what we've been doing in the last few streams is, if anybody else is working on anything specific, they can share their screens with me and I will share it with you via the stream. That's what we're going to do here. Flop this over. Oh, look, you told me there were technical difficulties. Thanks for that.
So basically, the way I similar to how you were working with the in-game UI is that I've started placing the elements in Photoshop and working out what kind of looks good before I start coding it in.
Always
that
a
way
good way of doing it.
That way I can kind of work out what looks good and not waste time, change it all later. So I'm just trying to work out how to move across the elements from the loading screen at the moment.
I mean, I'm not even sure that we need the AOTF logo in myself. I don't know how you feel about that.
Pew.
It seems cleaner to me without it.
No, I agree.
I might be tempted to have a Stellar Parallax watermark somewhere within it.
What kind of opposite this logo, perhaps?
Yeah,
or
maybe.
A faded one or something, or
yeah, something perhaps. I don't know. As I'm not an artist, as you know. I'm just thinking about ensuring that we are that we're well represented if somebody wants to share our pictures. So what's this program that you're making use of here?
So this here is Illustrator, which is a vector-based graphic package, as opposed to bitmap graphics package like Photoshop. So the main difference between that is that in Photoshop, images are made out of pixels. So if I go back into Photoshop and zoom in, you start to notice image degradation where this is as high quality as the picture is because this is how many pixels make up that image.
Okay.
Whereas in a vector-based graphic package, this here is basically how I drew our race icons for our race flags.
Indeed.
So if we zoom into these, because they don't use pixels, it's actually an outline that's been drawn with the program. I could zoom in infinitely and it will always be as high quality as possible.
I see.
So it will always be as sharp as possible, and this is really good for text or outlined images like these. If you start trying to manipulate, photographs this way, it's not possible to keep that quality level.
So it allows you to manipulate the size without any degradation.
Exactly. So I use this for logos and things like that, which I can then paste into Photoshop and keep that high quality, and then resize it from the maximum to what I need it to be, and then I'll get the highest quality.
I see. I'm with you.
So I could take the Stellar Parallax logo, copy that one, paste it in here as pixels, and then this will be as high resolution as I have made it from Illustrator, and then I can resize it here and know that that's going to be the highest quality.
I'm with you. So you're going to want something that's probably equitable in size, aren't you?
I think so, yeah. But I think what I might do is fade it out slightly so it's a lot less prominent than the
I think that's a good
white
idea.
of the tip and the race flag that you're playing at.
I have some doubts that Mark Alemo is acting anymore. The reason that Mark Alemo stopped acting in the first place is, bless him, unfortunately he was going deaf and he really struggled. He effectively struggled to keep acting. So it's unlikely that Mark Alemo will be in. Maybe, rather than simply greying it out, perhaps you could take the opacity down a little.
That's what I've done, but because the background is black on this image, it seems grey because it's the
I see,
opacity is down.
of course.
So I might need to try a different fill type to try and make it pop a bit more.
Perhaps.
Yeah, it's also because what I've added is a gradient effect here.
Yes, I can see that. Perhaps if you put it above the gradient effect in the order of things.
I think it is.
That's interesting. You're right, it is.
That's it normal, and then if I lower the opacity, it will just start going grey. So I might have to. What I might do is give it the blue color overlay or something, and then play around with that.
Yeah, maybe. Another thing I think you were doing during the course of this week is you were UV mapping the Conqueror.
Yes. So as we're filling up our neutral races, we've been looking at like we were showcasing last week with the Romulans, Vulcans. Using their ships, we were going to make a Terra Prime kind of rebellious human faction as a set of neutrals. So for those ships, I've used other or the human equivalent from the Starfleet Museum ship designs, and one of those that I've designed is or modeled from their designs is the Conqueror, which I think I have a picture.
I think you've also been experimenting with a new program as well, so I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
So this is the Conqueror design, which
yes.
is a lot different looking than conventional Starfleet. No, behave.
Oh, my bad.
So what I've done is I've modeled this one in 3D now. When you model a ship in, or any model in 3D, after you've made the actual mesh, you then need to do something which is called UV unwrapping, which is basically, imagine you made a
box.
A box. If you flatten that box into a single piece of paper, that would be your UV map, and then you would draw your texture on that, and then the program would build the box again, and then you see how the textures look on every side. Now, with very complex shapes, that can be very difficult, especially if I load up 3D Coat. This is a new piece of software I've been playing around with to try and make it easier for me to UV unwrap, because the tools in 3D Max, while they're very good, they're quite complicated, and I first learned to use 3D modeling software when I was in college, and that was about 10 years ago. So the
Things have changed.
Yeah, and my memory is not as good as it used to be. So a lot of the ships I've modeled, well, all of the ships I've modeled so far for AOTF, Max has UV'd and textured them to keep them consistent. And this was one that I thought, do you know what, I'm going to try and learn and do it myself. So,
well, because it doesn't need to be overly consistent with anything else, it does give you a little bit of room to maneuver as well, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So
you're not going to need to use the same swatches or the same pre-textures necessarily.
Exactly.
Base textures, excuse me. I know what I mean.
Yeah. So this piece of software, basically, you can draw these. If you look closely, there, these green lines. You can draw these on here, and then it will turn that area into a segment. And then where these letters are drawn on, that is a representation of the shape of the texture as it's drawn.
Mm-hmm. You can see that's on the right-hand side of the screen.
Yeah, and then it basically on the right here will turn that into a flattened image of these components. Now, the thing that this software is very good at is it will color in blue or red where the texture is stretching and where you won't quite get 100% accurate representation.
Oh,
so
I
you
see.
can
That's
see
very
that over here. So this basically means that where that red section is, the texture will stretch ever so slightly. If it goes, deep, deep dark red or deep dark blue, then you've got a problem. You need to unwrap that slightly differently. But even though this has a slight red and blue, this is actually the best way to do this part of the model.
Mm-hmm. So once you've got this this unwrapped texture sheet, do you want to talk me through how you would go about texturing individual segments? I presume what you'd do is you'd kind of move to Photoshop and start with a base texture, colors everything the same.
So what my next step would be is to basically take this unwrapped model, and I will then reload it into 3D Max, and then I can apply all my textures to it in 3D Max, and then as I draw on those textures in Photoshop, as soon as I click save in Photoshop, it updates it in 3D Max.
I see.
So that way I can see it as I'm drawing it to kind of go, oh, that looks a bit wrong, or that's slid over onto the next UV island, because each of these elements is basically an island on the sheet.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
So what I would do is areas that are the same. So if we look at this, you've got the left and the right of the model, and there's a seam down the middle. A lot of that could be mirrored to save space on the texture sheet. At the moment, it's duplicated. So you've got, if you look at the top left of the UV sheet, you've got the two very big elements,
open spaces, if you will.
Yeah,
and that's the. I hate to have to use the word, but that's the shaft of the ship, isn't it?
Yes. So we've got the orange one and the purple one. What we could actually do is take those islands, overlay them over the top of each other, and then as I draw on one, it will draw on the other, because as far as the texture sheet's concerned, they're both occupying the same space.
I see.
So by doing this, you basically halve the amount of space you're using on your texture sheet, and therefore you can scale these objects up, so you can get a better quality texture.
Okay, so because you're using less texture space, you can you're effectively maximizing the size of the texture that you can utilize.
Exactly, because this sheet is 224 pixels squared.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a limited amount of quality you can get out of those pixels. So the smaller areas that don't matter so much, you could shrink down, and then you leave the most space for the bits that you're going to see the most.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, that's pretty good. Well, I look forward to seeing the development of the product as it goes.
Yeah, so basically this software is made what would normally take me a week, take about a day. So it's actually a very good bit of kit, this. So.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, that could really change things up for a lot of modelers, couldn't it?
Yeah, and it's just, there's plenty of software.
It's called 3D Coat.
This one's called 3D Coat, yeah.
Okay.
There's plenty of different software out there, but this one I found is really good. So.
Honestly, it might tempt me to try modelling.
Yeah,
the thing that really scared me off from doing any modelling whatsoever was UV unwrapping.
It is fiddly, especially if you don't keep it in mind when you make the model initially, because you can make a bit that you think, oh, that's really detailed and good, but then how are you going to unwrap it? And then as detailed as it is, the texture might then look rubbish. So.
In before I make a 3D model of Gul Ducat's head, complete with laser eyes. No, I think that's going to be really interesting. So, I don't know what usage we would have for this ship. It would probably be a random event, wouldn't it?
Well, either a random event or another well neutral. But to be honest, we've got quite a few of those. So I'm thinking an event fleet with a few others of this similar era would be quite cool.
Or even a partisan fleet might work as well.
Potentially, yeah.
Why not both? Yeah, we'll see. That's something that I'm sure we'll come back to in the future. Thanks very much for showing that off. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Very much look forward to seeing the finished product on that. Okay, so you're going to move that into the same kind of blue coloration that you've got for the edging.
I think so.
Then move the opacity down. Try and give it a match. Here's your dibbler. There it is.
Dibbler.
Dibbler. That's the name for them.
Technical term, yeah.
Have you got a newer version of
What version are you using?
CS6?
I'm on CC, so this is the CC 2018, so this is the latest version.
It seems more crisp than CS6.
Yeah, I mean, what do they do with this one? Because it's subscription-based, you get the updates constantly rather than getting a set number of updates for that package and then they move on to the next one. So
that's cool.
It's actually, yeah, they're adding all sorts of... I could even chuck my 3D models in here and paint directly on them in Photoshop. Now it's crazy.
Fascinating. Centurion says, Human Purist fleet event, like the Terra Prime.
Exactly, that's what we're thinking, yeah.
It's certainly part of our thought process. Because we want to make things as flavoursome? Yeah, why not? As flavoursome as possible. For you as players, and I certainly think that's one of the possibilities. Okay. Suppose you could also move the opacity down as well, couldn't you? To see how that looks.
I think I haven't helped myself by choosing very dark loading renders that Connor's done for us.
Well, a lot of them are quite dark. It's the nature of space, isn't it?
Wait, hold on. Space is dark?
So they tell me. In the grim darkness. It appears that there is not a lot there now. It has all gone.
I really need to net in my layers. Oh my god.
I mean, I managed that. Terra Prime was a good arc for future Peter Weller. I mean, I do wonder. There was that mining thing, wasn't there? Kind of station moving space station, I suppose.
Oh, the thing on Mars?
Yeah. I wonder if we could convince some poor schlub to model one of those. Be an idea, wouldn't it?
I'm sure Neff will do it.
Yeah, he's probably already done it. He's anticipated our needs, knowing Nev. I see, and that's where you intend the load bar to go.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And then if we just keep rather than have a flat gradient all the way across, if we just keep it to the center where the tip will be, it kind of makes the flags pop a bit, but it'll also make the logo here work a bit better.
That could very much work. The Verteron array, Centurion says.
That's the one.
Cheers, Centurion. You're a good egg. Yeah, I'm liking the look of that. I think that'll be a good loading menu. Now, for me, one thing that I am going to need to do, unfortunately, I'm probably not going to have time to do it during the course of this stream, but one thing I need to do over the next week or so is I need to look at research. You'll see that much of the research, particularly for the Romulans, more so than any other race, it's very, very bare bones, and I've done very little of it at the moment. So, we were talking about it earlier. It's just stuff as the feds go in here. I'm not ignoring Twitch chat, I wouldn't dare. In fact, I just mentioned Centurion, who was talking in the Twitch chat, was he not? See? Yeah, see? I try and read all the chat. Sometimes I do get a little bit... engrossed in the game, and therefore I'll miss certain things occasionally. Right, so we're back on the Federation. God, there's so much stuff I need to do. I need to give all the other ships these particular icons, and I also need to look at the research. Now, we've got a little bit of Federation research in. Most of these comprise of ship unlocks, which I need to do for the other races. And in addition to the ship unlocks, we've got various different types of weapon unlocks. And down here we've got a Mark II polarized hull. Adds additional armor depending on the number of researchers. Oh. Doesn't like this.
What did you do?
It's an image thing. It's trying to search for an image that isn't there. I think because I copied these researchers from STA3.
Ugh, that.
My bad. Of course, I changed what they all do, but one nice thing about kind of having a previous mod like Star Trek Armada 3 is I can go in there and say, okay, I know I need a research. Simply press R. Excuse me, simply press F. Go to one of the researchers and just open it up. And then I've got a template which is very easy for me to use. So like, say we just go here. And I've now got a template that I can make use of. So what I'll often do is I'll copy something, a piece of research that is pre-existing that we've made before, move it into the current mod and then change it for my own purposes. And I've found for a long time that that's the easiest way to make researches and the least intrusive. Which is my favourite Xindi technicist? Ship-wise, I like the... I think it's the mammalian battleship. Or primate, possibly. Let's just take a look. It's certainly not the insectoid one, although I do like it. Or the reptilian one. Insectoid again. Primate corvette, I think, is actually an insectoid design. I don't know what you reckon. Hobbs?
I'm stuck between two. I really like the amphibian battleship, the really big one, and I also like the that's the one. And the just the reptilian baddie one.
The naughty man. Here we go. This is the one that I like the best. The primate warship. I really, really like this design. I know it's been used a couple of times in Trek. But this is my favourite ship design.
It looks like it could come straight out of something like EVE Online, doesn't it?
Yes, I'm just ignoring you, Kanaja. Oh look, we've got a Magnetar over here.
Pretty.
Magnificent stuff. Blake 7, yes.
I love Blake 7.
But there we go. Yeah, so I suppose the primate ships are my favourite. I like them all from a design standpoint. And I think it's nice that we're able to include them. I wonder if there's a... Yes, here we go. Here's the aquatic battleship. That's the one you were talking about, I think.
That's the one, yeah.
There's that incredible segment where you see bits getting blown off it and then the water escapes in Enterprise.
Yeah, so good.
I thought that was a really, really cool thing to see. I mean,
little,
horrible for the occupants. But...
Yeah, those little attention to detail are great.
Oh, look, there's a Jupiter getting punted by the Xindi. Don't fight. Run.
And I'm out of here.
I've been asking Max for ages if he's willing to do a warp effect where you get the red and blue lines for the feds, but he's not. Just wants
The
to
red
go
and
with
blue
this.
lines.
Yeah, you know, like the Federation when they're at warp in TMP in any of the movies, you get those red and blue lines where the nacelles are.
Yeah.
And I love it. I absolutely adore that effect. But Max isn't having any of it. He is not a fan. There we go, folks. So that's one of the things that I need to do over the next week, is I need to create some research. Now, the main research that I need to go down is going to be civilian in nature, and it's going to be upgrading things like your dilithium mining, your titanium mining, and giving each faction a little bit of a flavour in regards to what they're good at, based on their, I suppose, their faction features. Now, we suggested that in this particular incarnation of the mod, we think the Klingons are likely to be very good at dilithium extraction, by virtue of the fact that they're a lot of their controlled space, it was very much ravaged by the Herc in ages gone by. So the region that they control is very notably lacking in dilithium deposits. I think that's fair to say, isn't it, Hobbs?
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're thinking leads on to the kind of desperation regarding mining and praxis and kaboom.
Yes, yes. So that's what's driven their research. So they're going to be quite efficient at extracting dilithium. That's one of the reasons we want to go in that direction with Klingons. Romulans, we want to look at kind of resource focus and tritanium to be their kind of like their main, or I should say their mainstay of things that they can get with greater ease. Max knows bullshit when he sees it. No, I love it! What are you saying? Gonna have to get him for the TMP era release. Yeah, TMP is the motion picture era. There will be a release for that somewhere down the line, as long as we're all interested in continuing. It'll be based very much on this mod. So once we've got this mod finished, a lot of it's just going to be swapping out ships and changing the researches to suit. So it should be a lot quicker to do the TMP one than it is to do this one, because we're doing everything from scratch on this one. Right, yeah, so what was I going to say? Yes, the Romulans very much a resource focus and focused on tritanium. The Federation's going to be a little bit more balanced, but they're going to find it easier to get credits, specifically. And I'm going to try and introduce a little bit of flavour, whereby the Klingons are going to do better in the black market, so they're going to get increasing discounts as they research things. That gives them a more easy access to the black market than the other races. The Federation, because they're very big traders, they are going to gain what you call sale to credit conversion. Because they've got their fingers in all the pies, as the Federation do. Anytime a sale is made on the black market, they get a bit of a kickback. Which will, again, it'll augment their credit income. And the Romulans are going to become better at refining and transporting goods. But there we go. So that's what's hopefully going to come over the next week or so, as and when we've got the time to do it. I must admit, I haven't been as active as I'd like to be in an ideal world, and for that I do apologise. That comes from both work on the mod and also streaming. Haven't done as much as I would like to, but I think we're getting there. Slowly.
Slowly but surely.
Just noticed that our little shuttles aren't moving around.
Oh, the little worker bees.
Yeah, look.
Oh.
Static. I don't. Oh, it's because we're paused. I'm an absolute dickhead.
You idiot.
I'm an absolute dickhead. Alright, no one saw that. which is why the Klingons get so annoyed over the dilithium-rich Inverness system. Yes, that is one of the reasons that they get annoyed about that.
They called dibs, goddammit.
Well, the Klingons pretty much called dibs on everything.
This is mine. This is mine.
Made a lot of things mine today. Is that Cat from Red Dwarf?
It is indeed.
Magnificent stuff. Well, I think that's all we really wanted to look at today. It's not the most expansive of dev diaries, and for that I do apologise. But as I say, as a team, we've all been relatively busy the last week or so, so we haven't achieved all that much. I hope you've enjoyed what you have seen, and we'll be back next week. Hopefully there'll be more work than last week gone in, and have more to show off. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed what you've seen today, then make sure you give the video a like, share it around with other like-minded Star Trek communities to make sure that they get the word about a new Star Trek mod that is going to be coming out focused on this era. I think there's a bit of dearth of mods focused on the era that we're going for, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's I just think it's nice to have more detail in this era. I think that's why we've all had a lot of fun developing the lore and developing a bit more of a backstory to it, because Enterprise kind of just cut off and that was it. And then that was there's a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of what could have happened with forming of the Federation and the Romulan War, and then the antagonism with the Klingons and stuff like that. So it's a really cool road to go down.
Yeah, at some point we'll do some kind of visual representation of the Loaf timeline as well, just so people can freely understand kind of what direction we've gone in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be a really, really cool idea.
It's probably a good idea because, I think we've pretty much got it locked down in our minds as to what the timeline is for us. But just because we've talked about it so much doesn't mean we've talked to the community about it as much as perhaps we could have done. So they might not be as clear on what we think the timeline is in this mod.
Yeah, we'll make a little production bible kind of to put it all together, and then at least.
Well, yeah, and I certainly think Orion's been making strides into that, because he's done some wonderful little storylines on ModDB.
Yeah, and what other people have been adding is incredible. It's great.
Yeah, I actually love that. Centurion's one of the guys who's. But, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you in the next episode next week. There will, of course, be a brief dev diary up probably tomorrow, I expect, on ModDB for you to read through. So if you haven't had time to watch the entire stream, or you've just been dipping in and out, I'll have a dev diary up tomorrow at some point. But thank you very much for watching, guys, and thank you very much for joining me, Hobbs.
It's great to be here. Great to. Hey.